Hey guys, this is Jonathan Bales. I'm on the player ratings page here at FantasyLabs and just going to walk you through some of the data we have and how you can get the most out of this page. So the idea behind this page is to give players percentile ratings 1 to 100 in a variety of different categories that we have here on the left. So first of all, you can see all of the different data that we have in general. This is just a fraction of the data that we offer in Player Models, our premium tool, which allows you to take all this data, back test what historically leads to fantasy value, and then create your own models that give players ratings using all of these different stats. But you can see we have a whole bunch of different Vegas information, weather data, proprietary FantasyLabs statistics of how each player is performing on each specific site. So you can sort by DraftKings, FanDuel, or Yahoo, and then you can also sort by position. So we will just run through some of these ratings that we have here on the left. So our first one at the top is bargain players. This is based on our bargain rating, which is a statistic that we created which looks at the inefficiencies in site salaries. So we look at DraftKings versus FanDuel, for example, and we know the historic site pricing differences for each position. So maybe on DraftKings, on average, a catcher who costs $3,200 will only be $2,400, let's say, on FanDuel. We look at that difference and then give it a percentile ranking in terms of how different they are. So, for example, we will look on DraftKings here. You can see, for example, Pablo Sandoval costs $3,900 and has a bargain rating of just 2, which means he's in the second percentile in terms of the site salary difference, which means he's probably much more expensive on DraftKings than he is on FanDuel. So we'll look here on FanDuel. Go back to the top, and Pablo Sandoval should be up there. He is. He's at 98, only $2,200. So huge pricing difference, which would suggest that if you want exposure to Pablo Sandoval and you play on both sites, that you should get that exposure to him on FanDuel. If you only play on DraftKings, it probably means that he's overpriced, and you'd want to most likely avoid him if you're trying to be price sensitive. And our bargain rating has been really accurate in the past and a really good gauge of value and worked really well when creating lineups. Next one is site salary change. So this is how much a player's salary has changed over the past month. This is basically another stat that it's similar to bargain rating. We're looking for players whose price is too low based on their expected production. So you can see Chris Carter here, and we can click on every name and you can see a whole bunch of other data on those players. On the season, his price has dropped $600 on DraftKings. It's dropped $700 over the past month and $700 over the past 10 days as well. There's a whole bunch of other data. You can see a lot of these ratings within the player card. So if we look at monthly salary change, you can see Chris Carter is here at 99. And this is another really good way just to find players who are underpriced, because a lot of times sites will overcompensate for recent play. So a player hasn't played well of late, especially in football, and his price will drop too much. And by looking at those pricing fluctuations, you can identify value. Pro trends. This is another percentile rating based on the number of FantasyLabs Pro trends that we have on a player. So you can see Pro trends right here. So we're looking at Carlos Correa. He has 9 Pro trends, the most of the day for today. You can click on those, and these are just situations that have historically offered value. So, for example, the temperature in his game is going to be above 80 degrees, and in those games on DraftKings, historically, players have scored 0.29 points above what you'd expect them to based on their salaries. Another one is the Astros are projected above 4.7 team runs. That has historically added 0.84 points above what we'd expect based on a player's salary. His salary has also dropped more than $500 this month. You can see that adds 0.2 expected points to DraftKings production. And so those trends have proven to be really predictive of daily fantasy value as well. Upside. This is a proprietary FantasyLabs statistic where we look at how many points a player should score based on his salary, and that's based on how many points players at his salary on the site in question have actually scored in the past. So we look at every player in every game, and we know how many points. For example, Billy Burns at $3,600 should score, and then we can determine a whole bunch of stuff off of that. And our upside rating calculates how often a player reaches twice that expectation. So in the case of Billy Burns, over the last 10 games, he has an upside rating of 10%. Over the past month, it's 26%, which is very high for a batter. And on the season, still 26%. The average you can see is only 16%. So he obviously has a very high upside rating in the 94th percentile. Consistency. Based on the same idea, we're looking at salary-based expected points, and that's just how often players reach that number. And so while in tournaments you might want to emphasize the upside rating, in cash games you probably want to look more for consistency. And when a player who is high-priced has a really high consistency number, someone like Goldschmidt at $5,500 right now, on the season he has had an average or above average game actually 77% of the time. Only 23% of the time has he been poor, which is those are really great numbers for someone who is as good as him and costs as much as he does. And again, on these player cards, we have a whole bunch of information, player splits, and our plus minus, which is the final rating on the player ratings page. Our plus minus is how many points a player has scored above or below per game what we'd expect him to. So Paul Goldschmidt, again at the top, his plus minus on the season is 3.13. So based on his salary, Goldschmidt has scored 3.13 points above what we'd expect on DraftKings. And you can see some of the top players in the league here. Justin Turner, for example, 1.54 points above what we'd expect based on his salaries. And this, again, is predictive of value. The same players, unless they have a steep price change, tend to offer value on specific sites. And so this is the background behind our ratings page. You can get a whole bunch of different data. You can click and see player trends, Vegas data, click on our player cards, get a whole bunch of other information. Within the player cards, you can even click on team cards, and you'll have more information about the game, public betting, how the line has moved, weather data, and things like that. And if you want even more ability, these are just ratings. We allow you to use these ratings and more and other data in player models to create your own daily fantasy projection models and ultimately optimize lineups off of the ratings that you create to help you win daily fantasy leagues.